This is Internal Battle, the #1 podcast for parents who face a child medical diagnosis. Sharing these stories with you will be our host, Nathan Jepson. All right. Welcome to the first official episode of Internal Battle. My name is Nathan Jepson. I will be your host. Today we are going to do our story, the story of the Jepsons and Ollie Bear's cancer journey. I'll give you a brief outline of our story, who we are as individuals and as a family. So let's begin. My name obviously is Nathan. I come from a hospitality background, so I'm a massive people person. I love to have a good chat. I'm very easygoing, so having a conversation with anybody about any topic is quite comfortable for me. I'm a passionate person and I have a very, driven sort of purpose-filled personality. So as soon as I kind of get my eyes set on fulfilling a task, I usually tend to get it done. Sometimes I get it done well, sometimes I don't get it done too well, so we will find out with this podcast. My wife Naomi has an artistic background, has been a stay-at-home mum for the past couple of years, bringing up our three beautiful children, Oliver, who is currently 7, Gracie, who's currently 5, and Marley, who is 2. Oliver, being our firstborn, was our shining star. He's bright, joyous, he has the kindest heart that you could imagine. So having him diagnosed with cancer kind of really sucks because it's been a bit of a struggle. There's a story that I always tell people about Oliver's kind heart. It goes back to his first year at kindergarten where he was playing a puzzle with another boy on the floor of the classroom, and two other boys who are a bit more energetic, and I don't want to call them bullies because they're not bullies, but anyway, they were running around the classroom and they kept destroying Oliver's puzzle. He kept saying, "Can you stop that?" And then eventually he got the teacher and said, "Hey, these boys keep running around." And the teacher would say, "Hey, stop running around." Eventually, anyway, the boys kind of picked on Ollie because he was standing up to them. There was a bit of a push and a shove thing going on. Anyway, Oliver at the time was doing karate at a local karate place, black belt martial arts, getting pretty confident with his skills. I kind of asked Ollie why he didn't push back, and he said that he didn't want them to feel the way that they made him feel. And it was just one of those blessed things, because me as a child, I was like the boy who would stand up for other people. If I saw someone doing something that was hurting someone, I would always kind of stand up for them and be that aggressor, but in a positive way, whereas Ollie is just positive and he's kind and he's sweet and he thinks about those sort of things. He's outside of the box thinking. So this cancer journey absolutely sucks even more for me in that perspective, because he doesn't deserve it. Gracie's our outgoing little athletic girl. She's always energetic. She's always jumping off the walls. We have the conversation every now and again with me and my wife that maybe she has a bit of ADHD, but who knows? She's fun-loving. She cares about more things than what I would expect her to care about. She's a very full-hearted little girl, and she always loves to be a part of anything that her mum and her brother are doing, including their artwork. Marley is our little cheeky, lovable girl. She just wants to be a part of everything. She wants to join in with her big brother and big sister, even though the tasks that we usually have them doing she probably shouldn't do, but we do it anyway because why not? The learning curve with Marley has been astronomical. She has gone from cheeky sort of little 2-year-old baby to a full-grown baby girl who's still only 2. She's a 5-year-old in a 2-year-old's body. Anywho, so that's me and my family. That's our backgrounds. So the Jepson story I'm going to commence with is pre-COVID. Naomi and myself wanted to step away from the norms of life. We purchased a 40-foot coach bus that we were renovating, or we renovated into a motorhome. Actually spend time together as a family and adventure and experience life, travel the country, and hopefully, eventually start traveling the world with our kids. And then, lo and behold, COVID happened and lockdowns happened and we couldn't go anywhere. We got to live on a friend's property and renovate the bus for a little bit, and then, make sure everything was operational and working the way that we wanted to. We lived on the bus for roughly 18 months. My wife and I kind of started to really live that sort of life that we wanted to with our kids on the road, except, however, we were in lockdown on a friend's property. We were able to wake up every day and spend time with the kids, play with the kids, teach the kids different things, which was kind of a bit of a driving change for me. Obviously, we wanted to live on the road and work online. During COVID, I took up New South Wales government on the free courses, did Cert 3 and 4 in screen and media film, so that me and they could, live on the road. We could do some YouTubing and try and make a bit of a living that way. So I went from doing hospitality work into film. I was lucky enough to be given a job with the local news, NBN News, which took me from making my own little videos to actually filming mini documentaries every single day, which was actually a really good skill booster for me. I went from being kind of a novice who just came out of TAFE to being put into situations where I had to run with the reporters and run with the stories and cut videos really, really quickly, go out and film in the morning, come back to the office and edit for the 6 p.m. news. Fantastic experience. I couldn't fault NBN News for the upskilling and the opening the door to bettering my skills as a videographer. The good thing that came out of that, which was also one of the scariest times of our life, was that we got the opportunity to move to the Northern Rivers area as a job opened up with the Lismore Bureau for NBN News. Naomi, myself and the kids moved up to the Lismore area. We found a place to live on a share farm in a small town called Ellangowan, which is south of Lismore. However, we moved up to Lismore on the 12th of February, and 28th of February were the floods. The floods hit pretty dramatically. It was pretty scary, and then obviously the second floods hit at the end of March, so a couple of weeks later. First floods hit and we were flooded into the farm. We were lucky enough that the water only rose to the point where the house was surrounded by water, which is still pretty scary. From the house to the fence was give or take 60, 70 metres, and you couldn't see the fence, and the fence was neck height. There was just that much water everywhere. It was scary being surrounded by that much water and not knowing if it was going to rise or fall. And then once everything cleared, the next set of floods came. It became kind of unlivable where we were on the farm, and obviously due to the rental crisis in most parts of the country, but also due to the devastation of the floods, we couldn't find a rental. It was a decision made by Nay and myself that we would split up for the time being. I moved Nay and the kids back down to the Central Coast just so they could have a safe and dry roof over their heads. We did a bit of couch surfing with friends and family. I stayed up in Lismore to continue work until we could figure out what our next steps were going to be. September rolled around, so we spent about 6 to 8 weeks separated. During that time, as Ollie spent that week at school, he started having headaches and kind of like equilibrium and dizzy spells. And he said that he was bumping into walls or desks and other kids at school, and he didn't quite understand what was going on. And I was lucky enough to get a 4-day weekend, and I told Nay, so she thought it'd be a nice idea to bring the kids up. As Nay was driving up, she looked at Ollie in the rearview mirror and she just noticed that his right eye went lazy and turned in quite dramatically. It was one of those heart-dropping moments where she's like, oh, that's not good. Ollie had some fluid build-up issues in his right ear. The doctors were a bit concerned because there were no ear infections that were coming along with the fluid build-up. At the time, the doctors booked us in to see a specialist just to get his ear checked. They were looking at doing grommets for his right ear to alleviate the fluid problem and hope that would show up anything that would tell them what was causing the fluid build-up and the issues with his right ear. And then on top of, when they saw the right eye kink in, she was quite concerned. Once we told the doctors all of the signs and symptoms of the things that we were seeing, Nay followed the mother's instinct that something's wrong with her child. We took Ollie to Lismore Base Hospital, along with complications along the way. We eventually got a CT scan and an MRI done on Oliver, and that's when the doctor came into the room, and he had that doctor voice where he's about to tell you something concerning, and that's when they approached the conversation of Oliver having a tumour in his head. Having Nay and the kids come up for a little holiday was going to be one of those joyous sort of taking a break from normal life and the distractions of all the things that were going on at the time, to then be hit with Ollie has a tumour in his brain and we need to fly you down to Sydney to have it looked at. And then landing in Sydney and having the oncology team come up was, there's no words. It's extremely daunting. It was very scary. As a parent, as soon as you hear the words oncology, you know cancer. Once being admitted into hospital and having the doctors come in and roll in the TV that showed Ollie's MRI scan and having that tumour appear on the screen, the doctor kind of explaining what it is, and next to his right ear, under his right eye, It was heart-shattering, world-shattering. It was like an earthquake. It was like a Category 5 storm all happening at one time. It was like the floods were hitting again, but only on the inside. And they stayed with Ollie in the hospital for a day. I took the girls and I had to go to work and explain what was going on. It was one of the hardest conversations that I had to have, even though the two reporters, Gracie and Josie, and the bureau chief, Paul, coming out and showing me support and love, giving me a cuddle. And it was the first time that obviously I spoke to anybody outside the hospital other than Nay about Ollie's diagnosis. Gracie and Marley were with me and they were both cuddling me and letting them know that I'll need to take time off work. Pretty much went from there back to the little share house rental that I had and started packing everything up, getting everything ready to leave. And then Oliver and myself flew from Lismore Base Hospital in a Westpac plane down to Sydney, and from Sydney we had the ambulance transport to the hospital and then came in to have Ollie looked at and seen. Having him there, following the next steps that the doctors were doing, so having the biopsy, knowing that it was a tumour and that it was probably on that 90% chance of being cancerous. When they put him under for surgery to biopsy the tumour, they also put his central line in at the same time. 2 birds with 1 stone, which was quite good because he obviously needed to have a central line put in. Getting the diagnosis that it was cancer absolutely broke me. It sent me down a rabbit hole that I would never have expected to be sent down in my life. Obviously, like everybody listening, cancer is something that's out there. You know it. I think they say 1 in 3 people have either had cancer or know somebody who has had cancer affect their life. It's a pretty big percentage of people out there, whether it be indirectly or directly. Seeing Ollie in his hospital bed after his surgery, he was groggy, he was tired, he still didn't quite understand what was going on. That sucked. Plainly. Anyway, next steps. The doctors now know after the biopsy that it's cancerous. We were given the diagnosis of embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a soft tissue cancer. Predominantly, it can form somewhere in the brain, it can form in the neck, it can form in the bladder area. It's a soft tissue cancer, so it can pretty much form anywhere. We were taken into the oncology doctor. We met our oncologist. Then we went into, obviously, the next steps, which is treatment breakdown. We were given originally 67 weeks of chemo, which included 6 different kinds of chemo over the entire treatment plan. We also had 28 rounds of radiation over a 6-week period. That was supposed to happen. So we had 3 rounds. We had round 1 of chemo, round 2 of chemo, and round 3 of chemo is maintenance. Round 2 of chemo, we were supposed to have radiation at the start. However, a couple of weeks into round 1 of chemo, Ollie's tumour, after the initial MRI, the tumour was actually showing progression, so it was still growing. Ollie had a moment where almost like a bit of a stroke, but he had his tongue get deviated. We had to rush him into hospital because it was a bit concerning, and they found that the chemo wasn't being as effective as they were originally hoping it would be. So they moved radiation forward. So instead of being at the start of round 2, they just went initially emergency, we need radiation to start now. As the doctor said, they wanted to bring out the big guns. So radiation was going to really hit Ollie's tumour hard and fast and hopefully stop it in its tracks and start to shrink it. We were only half lucky. The tumour stopped growing after radiation. However, it did not shrink, which was another devastation on top of the already devastating times that we were going through. Within those 28 rounds of radiation, we had 8 weeks of steroids. So that's daily, which was evidently shocking because along with steroids comes the water weight, the obvious puffy face that most cancer kids get. Right before that, at the start of chemo, Ollie lost quite a bit of weight. He was 20 kilos was his average, and he dropped down to about 17.6, I think was the lowest weight. And it was pretty scary looking at him like that. And then 6 weeks later, through radiation, steroids, he puffed out and went really chubby and chunky. And that was another part of this sort of journey where they lose weight, they put on weight, they lose weight, they put on weight. The amount of things that these kids go through, it's so difficult to watch. One of the big things for me that's still quite livid in my memory was one of the side effects to one of the chemos is nerve pain or nerve damage. Ollie one evening just said he started to feel pain, and we were the scared parents for immunocompromised. We can't give him Panadol to control the fever because he needs to be brought in and given the right or the correct antibiotics for immunocompromised children. And they need to watch the temperatures, and then they need to give an and dose him with the Panadol and the correct amounts and whatnot over the time that he's in hospital. Seeing Ollie, in the bathtub with the warm water on his legs, because the nerve pain that he got was hips and knees, or hips and thighs, so a lot of the upper leg area, and it was just uncontrollable and unfathomable, the pain level that he was in, and there was nothing that could be done. Taking him into hospital due to that pain and just having to ride it out. Once they diagnose the nerve pain and they can suppress it with some medication, but until the nerve pain kind of ceases, Panadol, morphine, oxy, it doesn't really have much effect on nerve pain, which is a sucky thing. Having Ollie in the hospital bed, screaming, ow, 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 as if he's being stabbed with 1,000 needles all over his legs, crying out for help from mum and dad. And there's nothing you can do. Oh, so vivid. Oh, it's heartbreaking. It broke me. I was in the hospital room with Nay. It's just... Talking about it now, I can vividly hear Ollie's cries. The things that these kids go through, it's not fair. We made the hardest decision. You give the kids these horrible, toxic medications to try and save their lives and kill this tumour and kill the cancer to prolong their life. When you really take a step back and think about your decisions, you do anything for your kids. But this is one of the hardest decisions you have to make. Trying to be a parent and save their life and extend their life for as long as you possibly can so they can live a fulfilled life or live a life in general. But to flood their system with the toxic chemicals, it sucks. It really, really sucks. It's hard to explain. Knowing that he needs this medication, knowing that he needs to have these chemicals put in him so that he can fight this cancer and beat this cancer so that he can live a life, any life, whether it be a happy life, a sad life, as long as he's alive. That's sort of your goal as a parent. Keep your child alive so that they can experience life and adventure and have their own ups and downs and their own story. And, this cancer story just happens to be one of Ollie's now. I keep picturing Ollie as like an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old going out of high school or university and doing a speech, and a part of that speech is how he overcame the cancer and won his battle, and how that has affected his life and what he's doing now to empower himself and empower others around him. That's what I keep envisioning and hoping for the future and putting that out into the universe that's going to happen. And when I'm in my 40s and my 50s, I will see Oliver make that speech. Ollie is on antibiotics for multiple different things and multiple different side effects of the chemo and the drugs that he's on. We give Ollie a mountain surplus of nutrients and vitamins to boost his system up, really flood his system so that his body can be at the best as it can be to help him fight. If we had a choice, I think Nay and I spoke that we would have chosen immunotherapy, to boost his system to try and fight the cancer. But in Ollie's case, because the cancer and the type of cancer it was, it's the aggressiveness of it and how far along it was, that wasn't an option for us. We had to go down chemotherapy and radiation. In the darkest days when we first arrived here, like, it's all a blank to me. It all kind of fused into itself, into one big sort of journey. I remember speaking to doctors and nurses. I remember speaking to the surgical team, but I don't quite remember them at the same time. It is quite a lot of a blur. I think there was a lot of shock value, which is okay. At that time, we were in the right place. We didn't need to have that much control over everything. Nay's parents come down, my parents come down. We had Nay's sister and her partner come over from WA. We had my brother and sister and their family come down to see us. We were surrounded by a lot of our support network, which was really good. It's just overwhelming being introduced to all the different doctors. At the start as well, the neurosurgical team were quite comfortable with attempting the surgery on Ollie's tumour, but the oncology team were not. The tumour was growing through treatment, so the little tentacles that the tumour had got more entangled around things, and it has now come to the point where the tumour is inoperable. So that isn't an avenue that we can take. We can never remove the tumour. It will always be there, and hopefully by the end of our treatment, cancer will be gone and the tumour will just be a dead cell. The other thing that weighs on my mind a lot is that it's hard to say, but we're lucky in the case that we've got the not so bad type of cancer, embryonal Rhabdomyosarcoma is the less aggressive, even though it's still super aggressive, it's the less aggressive version of rhabdomyosarcoma. We're lucky in that essence. It's the weirdest thing to say. And then when you meet other families who have kids that have different types of cancers, or they've got worse side effects to their treatment, or unfortunately they don't make it through their treatment, they don't win their battle, and you think to yourself, I'm glad that we are where we are, and we're at where we're at with Oliver's treatment and Oliver's cancer journey, and that makes it so weirdly difficult to say out loud. You wouldn't wish cancer upon your own child or another child, but then you say to yourself how lucky we are that we're kicking cancer's butt and that we're winning our battle at the moment. Within arriving at Westmead Hospital, we were lucky enough to have our social worker contact Ronald McDonald House, which is across the road, and they had a room open. So coming over here, I remember being with my dad, and again, another story that's just kind of faded into the back of my mind. I come over here and we walked in the doors, had our paperwork with us. We were greeted by one of the reception staff members, Chris, who I now come to call a brother. He's a legend. I'm one of those guys that, kind of like me, he can fit into any conversation, show compassion and be authentic and be genuine and be caring. Chris took us for the sort of orientation walk around the house to kind of show us where everything was. Just made everything easy, had a good conversation. He knew that we were in a tricky spot, and that we needed that little bit of ease and a walk around and just kind of have a bit of a chat and a giggle. Made a dark situation quite light, which was really fantastic. Props up to Ronald McDonald House. They employ some fantastic staff members. This place, unbelievable. It's just immaculate. It's like a 5-star resort for families who have sick kids going into the hospital. The rooms are great. Everything's modern. You've got comfortable beds for you to lay on, a TV in your room, little play area in the common room for the kids, massive lounge area with TVs downstairs, bike track out the back so the kids can be athletic and actually get out and exercise and run around and try and have a little bit of fun. They've got the common room kitchen, which is huge. I think there's 6 or 8 different little mini kitchens for people to use. There's 60 rooms in this house, so 60 families can live here at any one time. That's huge. We have a lot of people and a lot of kids that go through hospital, but to have this place here and have it available to you, it's beyond words. You don't realize having a roof over your heads when you're going through something like this, but not to have to think about it. We came from Lismore and the floods and an unsafe living environment to a hospital and Ronald McDonald House. The stress of not having to think about, finding a rental or booking a hotel for a long stay, not having those stresses, it's one of the biggest things. I can't thank Ronald McDonald House enough, or even Central Coast Kids in Need. They're the small hometown charity that we're from on the Central Coast. They're supporting us staying here at the Ronald McDonald House. I think it's $160 a night for a family to stay here and cover the costs from the house. It's huge. We've been here for almost a year now. I can't thank these charities enough. The amount of support they give families, especially my family. Another reason why, I'm doing this channel and trying to boost the spread of awareness to the community is to support these charities. They're amazing. Ronald McDonald House, to the point where, to some degree, obviously they don't cook food for us, breakfast, lunch and dinner every day, but they've got this thing called Meals from the Heart, and they get in 3 nights a week and sometimes more if they've got a special event on. But 3 nights a week, they have, local companies come in with their staff members who volunteer their time to cook meals for the house. Now you think about that. 60 families can be living here at one time. The businesses that come in usually come in with 5 to 10 staff members. That's a lot of food. Families like mine, we've got 5 mouths to feed. Some families here, we've seen families that are bigger, some are smaller, but that's a lot of mouths to feed. 3 nights a week, they're doing anywhere between 100 to 200 meals in food, and it's all done voluntarily. It blows me away, the amount of support that this house has from the community, but how much support they give to the families from the wider community. There's people that have come to Ronald McDonald House from Western Australia. Darwin, we've got a family here from Darwin. Even people from other countries, New Zealand and New Caledonia. This house gives so much support to the families in such a way, like I said, the stresses of the financial problem with needing a rental or a hotel or something's taken away because this house is given to the families with kids who are inpatients for free. This is why the community needs to support this sort of foundation and this charity. A lot goes into it, and a lot needs to go into it. Obviously we're on a cancer journey, so Red Kite has been a massive supporter for us. They give out, fuel vouchers, food vouchers. They also support you with, phone bills and stuff like that, just to take the the small stresses out of life. For cancer kids, there's a thing called the cancer beads. So it's kind of like a therapeutic thing they do for the kids where they track their journey with these cute little beads that they make. I think Ollie's so we're about a year into the journey and we're missing about 100 little beads, but his bead journey is about 4 meters long. It's something that really helps both Ollie and Nay and I to track his sort of journey. Because Red Kite, they give you this care package where they give you a bag and it's full of like a calendar book and a medical journal. We use the bag heaps. The bag was super helpful to just shove things in and have like an overnight bag for Ollie. But yeah, in support of these foundations and these charities like Ronald McDonald House, Central Coast Kids in Need, Red Kite, Sydney Children's Hospital Foundation over at the Westmead Hospital, Australian Cancer Research Foundation, Cancer Council New South Wales, like the amount of support that we've been given by them, I can only want to give it back. Doing the ACRF 2 kilometre a day challenge earlier on in this year to raise money and awareness. Cancer research is massive. The spreading awareness about the research and what the different foundations are doing. I don't know where we would be if Nay didn't have her mother's gut when she took Ollie to the hospital in the first place. We would have waited until November instead of September to get Ollie's ear inspected by the specialist for grommets. And who knows, when they put the grommets in, would they have found the tumour? Would the tumour be 10 times worse than what it was? Because even though we found the tumour in September and we started treatment, it kept growing. What could have and what would have happened if all this didn't happen? Scares the hell out of me. Absolutely scares the hell out. Having your child's mortality brought into question against such a silent killer. I don't want to think about it. I don't. But yeah, so all the support that we get given by these charities, by these foundations, obviously I want to try and give it back and hopefully pass it forward onto the next person and onto the next families. So becoming an ambassador for Ronald McDonald House and supporting them, sharing our journey as much as possible so we can spread that awareness. Becoming an ambassador for Red Kite and their You Little Ripper Challenge this October. You Little Ripper Challenge, pretty much, as you can tell, I'm bearded, I'm quite hairy. I'm going to be waxing my entire body from neck down. As I've explained in this video, Oliver's, one of the big things that stood out for me for Oliver's journey was the nerve pain. So to me, these kids go through that much pain and uncomfortability and, they lose their sense of control, being jabbed at by nurses and doctors, having their bandages changed, being given all these different types of harsh chemicals into their body to fight the tumour that's inside them. That to me is represented by me doing this challenge where I'll be waxing my body. It's uncomfortable and it's painful. I am quite hairy, so they'd say that to wax your body, you should, shave your hair a little bit first. I'm not doing that because it's going to be more painful to do it with the hair at full length. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to be raising, obviously, funds for Red Kite to support families like mine, and also raising awareness of what Red Kite do, but also cancer in general, and the fact that we need to come together as a community and we need to back these foundations and these charities and these research programs so that we can better treat these things in the future. Yeah, so getting out there, being supportive, sharing your story, you never know who it's going to touch and who it's going to inspire and who it's going to help. We recently were a part of a boost for a foundation called Bravery Buddies, and she makes these little cancer teddy bear dolls for kids. We were on the project and we talk about how beneficial the doll has been not only for Ollie but also his siblings, Gracie and Marley. The best thing that we can do for these kids as parents is to stay as positive as we can. The struggles that I had with depression, anxiety, grief and sadness, it was very overwhelming. The first part of treatment, I just buried my head, really. I went to hospital, tried to be as positive as I could. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I went down a rabbit hole of trying to block out reality, watching movies, watching TV shows, being on my phone a lot. I thought it was beneficial sharing our journey on social media and stuff, which was really good, but 9 times out of 10, I'd spend 95% of my time just, what do they refer to? Doom scrolling. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, just scrolling through, and next minute it's 2 a.m. and I'm tired as the nurses come in. She's like, "Oh, you're still awake?" That same with the girls. I put the girls to sleep while Nay was in the hospital with Ollie, and then I'd just stay up most of the night. We needed a change, so we, started focusing on positivity, started getting our brains active and using our imagination and our own creativity. We saw how beneficial it was for Ollie, so why not try and do it ourselves? Reading books, it's a massive thing. I think I'm up to book 26 for the year. Just keeping my mind active, keeping my imagination going. A big thing for me is actually talking about what's going on, talking to staff members and volunteers and ambassadors for different charities, talking to family members here and their journeys. At the moment I'm talking to a counsellor from Red Kite. I talk to her twice a month, once a fortnight. and we just have a chat about anything, an open and a safe place. You can talk to a counsellor from Cancer Council. You can talk to a counsellor from the hospital. The social worker. Keep the social worker up to date with everything that's going on, whether it be treatment, whether it be health of your child or of yourself. Just getting it out there, having a chat, it's super beneficial. Having support in any way is really what this is all about. Support of Ronald McDonald House and giving you a safe place to live. Having Red Kite supply those sorts of vouchers to help you financially. Having meals cooked for you. Because even though for us in our journey, we've got 18 months worth of frontline treatment and 3 to 5 years worth of checkups, having those support networks can help you in the long run. You could talk to Red Kite now and have their support, but talk to Cancer Council and get their support later on down the track. Spreading it out. You don't have to do it all at once, but just knowing that there's multiple things out there is super helpful. Yeah, we won't ever know if his cancer is completely gone. The doctors can't tell us because they can't operate on the tumour and take it out. They'll not be able to tell us once it gets to those finite, the last 5 to 10% of cancerous cells and activity in the tumour. They won't be able to tell us the difference between the living healthy cells, the living cancerous cells, and the dead cells, because it will light up on the MRI. Unless they go in and do a biopsy on those tiny little bits of cells, they won't be able to tell us. And obviously, we're not going to do that. We're not going to open up Ollie to the risk factors of going in for surgery to do a biopsy on the last little bits. We'll just continue the MRIs and the PET scans for those, every 3 to 6 months for the next 3 to 5 years, just to keep a check on it, keep an eye on it. But yeah, like our life has been put on pause from when Oliver was taken into hospital last September and we were shown that he had a tumour. I had to leave my job. Eventually, obviously, I lost my full-time role at Lismore Bureau because that's not sustainable to keep me on leave. The Jepson dream to travel is definitely still on the cards. We're hoping that we can, once we finish Oliver's treatment and we have to move on from Ronald McDonald House, the hope is that we get we find a place to live and that we can still kind of travel a little bit. All right, so that is the Jepson family background and our cancer journey. If you would like to, please support the channel as best as you can. So like, subscribe, comment, download. Yeah, I hope you get something from our story. Life isn't over. We're going to keep on going, keep on pushing through. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. We get strength from Oliver because how well he's going through treatment. And when I ask Oliver where he gets his strength from, he says he gets it from us. It's a circle of life. Like it's all wrapped around itself. So the positivity that me and Naomi try and bring to our lives, and it feeds Oliver. He feeds off of that, and then we feed off of him. It's the best collaboration I could ever have hoped for. Working with my wife to promote Ollie's amazing, joyful artwork and push his journey and story onto other people to try and inspire them, and being positive and working towards a better life and hopefully a better treatment plan for any of the future kids that get diagnosed. So yeah, again, for those of you that haven't heard it yet, www.internalbattle.com. That is our webpage for you to follow both the podcast and Oliver's journey and his, have a look at his amazing artwork and the different things that we're being able to create from that. Our Facebook page, Ollie Bear and Our Cancer Journey. So that'll give you regular updates on both Ollie's journey, his artwork, and the podcast. So thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of this story. There will be updates to come on Oliver's journey and the Jepson story. We're probably going to do a few episodes where we talk about barriers and challenges that we've come across and the things that we've done to overcome them. I did want to leave you guys with something that I came across a couple of months ago that empowered me on my sort of positive journey. There was this young lady who was on, I think it was America's Got Talent. Her stage name was Nightbird. Her name was Jane, and she was a cancer warrior who unfortunately lost her fight. But one of the empowering things that she said, you can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. That really resonated with me because I was stuck in that place of darkness but trying to push through. It's a battle every day. Every day it's a battle to try and, look for the positives and find the positives and act on the positives. But that sort of quote really sticks with me, and I hope that it might help empower you or, help you to empower others. Anyway, thanks for listening and have a good day. Talk soon.